Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kia ora. It's a great pleasure to be elected to the, and great honor to be elected to the Royal Society. I'm a mite taxonomist. I mostly work on mites. And taxonomy is an area that I did some work in the last 20 years to advance this branch of biology. So in this talk, I'll first introduce what taxonomy is, why it is important, why is it in crisis, and then what can we do to help taxonomy. And then I'll give some examples for the work that I did over the last 20 years. Taxonomy is biodiversity discovery science. So we go out into the nature, we find species, we collect them, that's the fun part. You know. We sometimes go to museums, or in big cities, nice place, you know, study specimens in a museum. And then we study them, we classify them, we find lots of new species. So we name them, we got the opportunity to name them. And then we also study their relationships, their origin, their importance in our society. And then, of course, we produce a taxonomic system that provides a basic framework for the rest of biology and science. Taxonomy is very important because we ask important questions that are also very essential to biology itself. So what species inhabit this earth with us, how they began, so how they evolve. So these are all very important questions. And then, of course, it is also the foundation for biology. It's very important. On the applied side, we provide accurate identification for other biologists. And this is critical, very important for designing, for example, conservation programs, recognizing invasive species or pests, or just having a name, you can access information about it. Because if you don't have the correct name, you have nothing, basically. So taxonomy is really a science in crisis. The problem is that we have declining funding for many years. We have reduced number of taxonomists in institutions. And then we also have decreased training in taxonomy for younger generations. And then also we have this problem with infrastructure, especially in developing countries where biodiversity is very rich. In addition to this, we have this biodiversity crisis. We have this accelerated rate of species extinction, which is introduced by human sort of overexploitation. And then species are lost every year, thousands of them. We don't know exactly, but some estimate by the end of this century, we may have half of our life forms lost. So the real problem is that we don't even know the scale of this problem. That is because most of the species are not known. They don't have a name. We know nothing about them. So that's really the main problem. And many species are lost before we even have time to document them. So this is a quite sad story. And species are being described in the last 260 years or so. About 1.5 to 2 million species have been described and named. But we are doing only about 20,000 to 30,000 each year now. This is way too slow, given the high rate of extinction. So we really quite urgent. We really need to race against time to do our taxonomy. Taxonomy certainly needs a lot of help. Many countries developed their plans, international, regional, national. New Zealand and Australia, I have to use this cover. The Royal Society and the Australian Academy of Sciences did this 10-year plan, which is excellent, certainly one of the best in the world. So I'm going to just discuss in the next few minutes my own work trying to advancing taxonomy, two of the journals that I've been working with. So as a taxonomist myself, I find it very hard to publish 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I started. Many specialist taxonomy journals, they lack visibility. They have very slow publication process and very low citation. And then taxonomists find it very hard to publish in good journals. And especially for their most important work, the taxonomic monographs. It's very hard to publish them. So against that background, I started 20 years ago to develop this journal called Zootaxa. So we basically founded this journal for both small and large papers. There's no limit on the length of the paper. We also adopted the so-called distributed system of subject editors so that the peer review can be managed much faster. And then we also adopted the article-based publishing. So sounds familiar, like +1, much later than Zootaxa adopt the same system, which was highly successful. And then we publish both online and in print with no page fees, but very low open access fee. And then authors were given a PDF when it's published, so they find it very useful. So this journal was very welcomed by the taxonomic community and sustained rapid growth in the first 10 years, as you can see. The first one is the number of papers. And then by the end of the second century, as you can see, each year we're publishing more than 2,000 papers each year. And what's more, we published in the last 20 years over 1,500 monographs. That I mean papers 60 pages or more, really important works in taxonomy. And then in the last 10 years, averaged about 2 monographs every week. So in terms of number of pages, over the last 20 years, we published more than 500,000 pages. And then in the last 10 years, every week, we average just over 800 pages. It's published daily since 2009, certainly one of the biggest journals for a very specialized science, discipline of science. And in terms of new species, in the last, the first 10 years, it grew rapidly, and then in the last 10 years, it's averaging just over 4,300. And if you put this into perspective, I compared Zootaxa with journals of Royal Society of New Zealand, which published 8 journals, and Cyril Publishing, which is a big publisher in this part of the world. And they published 26 journals. And in 34 journals combined, they published 2,300 pages. That's only less than half of Zootaxa, one journal. Yeah. If you look at the number of new species and taxa published in this journal, so Zootaxa certainly is the top journal in taxonomy. It alone accounts for over 26%, more than 26% of all the new species of animals described in the last 10 years. And compared to the second in rank of the top 10 journals, it's more than 4 times as much. So it's way back in the top. Certainly, we want to replicate the success of Zootaxa. So from 2009, we started another journal called Phytotaxa. And this is for plants, algae, and fungi. So this journal follow same track. As you can see, just in 6 years, it's 25% of new vascular plants of all journals in the world. So it's an enormous success.